have you ever had this experience of after working a hard day, like doing manual labor or renovating your flat or doing whatever, you sit down, finally get to eat the food, and it tastes wonderful, even though it's something you have had hundreds of times, but it tastes so much better. That is why people can't shut up about Elden Ring and its upcoming DLC. Let me explain. Okay, so I have heard a lot of people still, even years and years after Souls games have become really popular, not really understanding what's the thing, why people like these games. Well, I think my analogy sums it up. You see, it's the reward after doing hard work. That's the thing. That is why these games are wonderful. These games offer you the catharsis after you have worked hard to achieve something. In our daily lives, oftentimes we do not get to see the fruits of our work. Sometimes we work just for the work's sake. We get salary, yes, but that's not necessarily the thing that gives us gratification. We just do it because we need money. And sometimes, even though we work very hard for something, we still fail. That is part of life. That is normal process of being alive. Sometimes, even though we struggle and we try really hard, some things are just not meant to be. Some things just do not happen the way we want. That is normal. And that is why, again, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, or any other of these types of games are so popular and satisfying, because these games guarantee that if you sit down, you apply yourself, you work for it, you will be triumphant. Yes, the bosses are hard. Yes, they are sometimes demanding and sometimes maybe even a little bit cheap. Especially in Elden Ring, some of the attacks are weird. But if you apply yourself, if you sit down, you learn how to play it, if you improve your character, if you improve how you play the game, you will succeed. And that is the tasty dinner after working hard. And that is why these games became so popular. People have this need, people want this, they want to struggle and then gain the benefits of their work. And that's the problem with a lot of other different games. They cut out the hard labor part. In a lot of games there are really good bosses, there are really good level design, really good combat and whatnot, but either by introducing difficulty switches or maybe just making the game casual, and I don't like to use that word, but you know, you get what I mean, casual, they cut out the hard part, you know, they cut out the day that you have to spend working to reap the fruits of your work. In these games, like, I don't know, let's say Assassin's Creed, you get to experience the fruits before the work because the game is not really challenging in itself, right? Elden Ring would not be popular games without this struggle, because the struggle is what makes the games interesting. And I mean, I understand it's not for every person. Maybe they in their daily life experience enough struggle that they don't want to struggle in video games. That is totally fine. That is completely normal. The second reason, of course, is that it's the hype machine. Like the Souls games previously, Bloodborne and Sekiro, were slowly, gradually building up the hype. More and more people got into them. But at first, there was a really small, dedicated community of, let's say, a little bit of hardcore gamers, people who found these games refreshing, and they started to play them a lot. I maintain that without the speedrunning community, Souls games would not be as big, and without Souls games, speedrunning community would not be as big and as popular as it became in the last 5 years, because they had this symbiosis, because Dark Souls are really good, and Elden Ring, of course, also are really good games for speedrunning, because it is, first of all, they can be broken in very interesting ways. Secondly, it is very satisfying for the viewer to see a game that he struggled with for 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 hours be achieved, be beaten in 1 hour. It's very interesting, and these two things came together. And of course the hype machine in general, that people have been talking and talking and talking and talking these past 10 years for these games, and of course the marketing and the budget for these games grow bigger, and that's why more and more people are playing. Like 25 million people have purchased Elden Ring. That is big. And the third thing is, of course, the Elden Ring is the most accessible of the Souls games. They modernized it a lot when compared to the Souls games, which were refreshing and interesting. They were still a bit archaic in some of the gameplay. But in Elden Ring, of course, there is this big open world space, and in general, the game has been brought up to more modern standards, let's say. People familiar with open world action adventure games could feel somewhat more at home when first starting Elden Ring. Right? And of course, people have become more familiar with the language of the Souls games, right? That's why Elden Ring is also more accessible, because more and more people understand that it's not the typical action RPG game, although now these days a lot of action RPG games have taken inspiration from Souls, so maybe they are, but yes, more and more people are well versed in how you should play these games, that you should tackle them a bit slowly, a bit more meticulously, and so on and so forth. Like 10 years ago, the Dark Souls 1 was actually a challenging game, but not today. If you go back after playing the modern Souls games, the challenge difficulty is almost laughable. You just go behind every enemy and just whack them on their butts, then roll a couple of times to avoid the attacks, and rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. So, of course, now we are way more familiar, and of course, that's why also Elden Ring is more approachable. And yeah, I think these three things are what makes Elden Ring so popular. First of all, it's the fruits of your work. Secondly, the hype machine. And thirdly, of course, the more accessible, more modern gameplay. But yeah, I think DLC is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm super happy that it's right around the corner. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you later. Bye!
And so too was Shadow born.